Who were you before you were born? Where was your soul before this world? Today you'll discover the powerful answers revealed by Seth about your true origin and how these revelations change everything you think you know about yourself. Get ready, because you will never see yourself the same way again. Have you ever felt a longing that has no name? A strange nostalgia for a place you don't know where it is, yet it feels more like home than anywhere on this earth. Maybe that longing is the echo of your origin, the subtle memory of something the soul never fully forgot. Even without proof, you feel, I existed before all of this. And that feeling isn't an illusion, it's veiled truth. Today, you're going to remember, not with the mind, but with the heart. And when that memory surfaces, nothing will make sense the same way again. Because remembering where you came from is the first step to remembering who you truly are. Seth is a non-physical consciousness channeled by writer Jane Roberts between the 1960s and 1980s. He brought teachings that laid the foundation for an entire modern spiritual revolution, influencing thinkers like Esther Hicks, Deepak Chopra, and even Joe Dispenza. Seth isn't an ordinary spirit. He's a multidimensional entity, sharing wisdom from higher planes of consciousness. He teaches about parallel realities, the vibrational nature of existence, and the creative power of the human mind. Seth's most famous phrase, "You create your own reality," is just the doorway to a far deeper, more liberating philosophy. Among his most powerful teachings is this: you weren't born here. You came from a place far vaster and more conscious. Seth states clearly, you are a spiritual entity before you are a physical being. For him, the soul isn't born with the body, it chooses it. It comes from a broader, more vibrant, freer reality where time and space as we know them don't exist. In that original state, the soul is pure creative consciousness, fully aware of its purpose, its gifts, and its connections. The physical body is only one of its possible manifestations. You are so much more than this life, this name, this storyline. And remembering that is the beginning of stepping out of collective forgetfulness. According to Seth, before any incarnation, your soul exists in a multidimensional plane he calls the inner regions of reality. There, everything is energy, intention, and vibration. In that space, you don't have a body, but you do have identity. You are a spark of source, conscious, active, and connected with other like-minded consciousnesses. You interact with other souls, review previous learnings, choose the context in which you'll incarnate, and plan specific experiences for your evolution. You participate in creating your reality long before you're born. You weren't thrown here. You came by choice and with purpose. Seth also reveals that your soul is part of a larger entity, often called the higher self or essential self. This entity contains multiple expressions of you across different timelines, dimensions, and realities. What you call me right now is just one of those faces. You're living a specific experience, but you exist simultaneously in other forms. The soul is multiple, creative, and eternal, and every time it incarnates, it brings fragments of accumulated wisdom, even if the conscious mind doesn't remember. There is ancient, silent wisdom within you, ready to be activated. Another striking revelation from Seth is that birth isn't the beginning, it's a transition. Before being born, the soul accompanies the body's formation, observes the family, senses the environment. It can decide to enter the body at different stages, at conception, during gestation, or even shortly before birth. None of this is random. Each soul knows exactly what it needs to experience, and which energetic doorway will best serve its plan. There are no victims in this process. There is indeed a loving intelligence behind every detail. And when you start to remember this, something deep aligns within you. Seth emphasizes that forgetting your origin is part of the game of physical life. The soul chooses to forget temporarily so it can rediscover itself within matter. This forgetting creates the ideal scenario for conscious choices, real growth and transformation. But the veil isn't final. In moments of silence, meditation, synchronicity, or deep love, the soul whispers its origin. Those unexplained goosebumps, that sense that you've lived this before, as their openings, windows to remembrance, and those windows can be cultivated, accessed, and expanded. That's why Seth doesn't invite you to worship the soul as something distant. He invites you to reconnect with it as something intimate. You are that soul, right now. You never stopped being it. The mind believes it was born here and will die here, but the soul knows all this is just a chapter. Your soul's origin isn't outside. It's vibrating within you with every breath. And the more you align with that truth, the more your life starts to make sense. Anxiety eases, fear loses power, intuition ignites, and the being you are finally starts to remember itself. Before you were born, your soul inhabits a reality not made of matter, but of pure vibration, light, and intention. Seth calls this space the inner regions of reality, where linear time doesn't exist, and everything is experienced expansively and simultaneously. There, you aren't bound to a body, a name, or a story. You are pure consciousness, self-aware, deeply connected to the all. That reality is far more vivid and brilliant than the physical plane. Many describe it as a place where you feel absolute love, total clarity, a peace we rarely experience here. In that pre-incarnational state, you are not alone. There are souls with whom you share deep bonds, spiritual groups, mentors, guides, and counselors who accompany you life after life. These connections are based on vibrational affinity and shared purpose. You exchange experiences, share learnings, and often choose to incarnate together in different roles: parents, children, partners, even enemies. There's no hierarchy or competition. Everything is cooperation. Everything is the building of consciousness. The soul doesn't seek success. It seeks expansion, integration, remembrance of its divine nature. In that space, you are also aware of other versions of yourself. Seth explains that the you are here is only a portion of a larger entity, the essential self. That self is simultaneously living experiences in other realities, planes and dimensions. Before incarnating, you can access those other lines of you, gathering wisdom from past, future, or parallel lives. This view completely expands our notion of time, identity, and evolution. Nothing is linear. You didn't come from point A to point B. You are multidimensional, and always have been. The consciousness that inhabits this plane feels no guilt, no attachment, no fear. Everything is seen with loving neutrality. Suffering is understood as opportunity, pain as catalyst, evil as temporary imbalance. The soul calmly, wisely observes the learnings it wishes to integrate. It revisits previous experiences, reflects on repetitive patterns, and seeks new forms of expansion. It longs to evolve, not from pressure, but from a deep desire to become more conscious of itself as part of the whole. There's no rush, only clarity. It's in this plane that you began to dream of this life. Yes, before you were born, your soul contemplated possible scenarios, family contexts, emotional challenges, and spiritual potentials it could explore. It traced probable paths and set key encounters. Every step here echoes a prior decision made at a higher level of lucidity. It's not a rigid script, but a vibrational line. You didn't come to suffer. You came to remember, to grow, to express the divine in human form. This life is a journey your soul chose with love, and that choice is sacred. When you touch that remembrance, everything changes. Life stops being a cruel enigma and becomes an invitation, a portal of evolution. Knowing there is a before to life gives meaning to what you live now. Pain gains context, fear loses force, hurry dissolves. You start walking with more presence, more compassion, more connection to something greater. Because deep down, this reality we call life is only one of many your soul has already traversed. And when you quiet down, meditate, breathe deeply, you can hear the soft echo of the place you came from. And it's always calling you back to itself. According to Seth, before incarnating, your soul analyzes countless life possibilities. It looks at different contexts, families, places, bodies, challenges, and potentials. Each option vibrates with a unique set of experiences and lessons. The final choice isn't random. It's made with profound lucidity and intention. Your soul chose this life, with its gifts, pains, encounters, and ruptures, because it knew this would be the best ground for your expansion, not as punishment, but as opportunity. That means even the difficulties you face are part of a larger plan created by you at another level of consciousness. Seth says, you choose your reality from the inside out, not from the outside in. That means the life you live now directly reflects what your soul wanted to experience, understand, or transmute. If you were born into a difficult family, With traumas or shortages, that wasn't neglect. It was fertile soil to activate virtues like compassion, inner strength, or emotional liberation. If you faced losses, perhaps it was to learn to let go. If you faced rejection, perhaps to recognize yourself beyond external validation. None of this is punishment. It's purpose in action. And that purpose is grander than you imagine. Often the soul also chooses experiences it couldn't complete in other lives. Unfinished relationships, interrupted learnings, unintegrated traumas, all of that can reappear in new forms, with new faces, but with the same essence. Not to imprison you, but to free you. Seth explains that time isn't linear as we imagine. Everything is happening now, and healing one aspect in the present can reverberate backward and forward in time, freeing your soul from old patterns. When you understand this, you start seeing repetitive cycles not as bad luck but as portals of evolution. Another important factor in choosing a life is soul agreements. Before incarnating, you arranged with other consciousnesses to meet in this life to play key roles in your awakening. Some would come to support you, others to provoke you, and some even to hurt you, not out of malice, but from a love so deep they accepted the role of mirror to your shadow. Seth says every encounter is a vibrational agreement. This doesn't mean accepting abuse or injustice, but understanding that, on higher levels, everything is cooperation. Even chaos is a catalyst. The soul also considers potentials for collective expansion. You may have chosen to be born at a specific moment in human history to contribute with your energy, your light, your presence. Many ancient souls, in fact, return in times of great transition, like the one we're living now. They carry codes, memories, talents that need to be awakened to help transform the planet. If you feel you don't belong to this world, maybe it's because you came from a place where love is purer, and you accepted the mission to anchor that vibration here. You're not here by accident. You are part of the plan. Understanding that you chose this life changes everything. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start acting as a co-creator of your own existence. You realize each challenge carries a hidden treasure. Each pain has a concealed revelation. Each choice was made with wisdom. Even if today it seems confusing, the soul sees farther than the mind. And when you reconnect with that broader part of yourself, you begin aligning with your true path. Life gains purpose, shadow gains light, and what once seemed like a mistake reveals itself as an exact part of your awakening. Even if the mind doesn't remember, your soul holds echoes of where it came from. Sometimes this shows up in intense dreams, where you visit landscapes that don't exist here but feel familiar. Other times, it's that inexplicable longing for something you never lived. It's the goosebumps when you look at the sky, the emotion without reason when you hear a song, the silence that moves you deeply for no apparent cause. These moments are what Seth calls flashes of origin, small openings in the veil that separates the physical world from your true home. And they're always happening. You just need to be present enough to notice. The soul's true home isn't a physical place, but a vibrational state of unity, light, and pure consciousness. There is no separation. Everything is interconnected, and you feel that as an absolute truth. There's no doubt, no fear, no loneliness. You know who you are, where you're going, that you've never been disconnected from anything. This memory is so strong that, in order to incarnate, the soul goes through a process of forgetting, so it can live the human experience deeply. But the forgetting is never total. There are traces, clues, subtle vibrations that accompany you from birth, like invisible marks of who you truly are. Seth says these forgotten memories become accessible as you raise your frequency. This has nothing to do with perfection or sanctity, but with presence and alignment. The more you meditate, get quiet, breathe consciously, connect with nature or genuine love, the more these memories start to emerge. They come as images, sensations, intuitions, a wisdom that wasn't learned, but remembered. Many people report feeling a peace that isn't of this world during deep meditative states. That peace is the vibrational echo of home. It's the soul saying, "You still remember." Many small children naturally access these memories. They talk about past lives, describe places they've never visited, hold conversations with invisible friends who are actually spiritual guides. But as they grow, these memories are erased by social conditioning. The good news is they're never truly lost, only asleep. and anyone at any age can reactivate them with intention, openness, and practice. It's not about going back to the past, but accessing deeper dimensions of your own consciousness. Because your home isn't out there, it pulses within you. When these memories start to awaken, it feels like a reunion. You understand you're not lost, just temporarily disconnected. Fears soften, the incessant search for meaning begins to ease. Because you remember, I came from a place of love, and I'm going back to it. That remembrance changes everything. You stop fighting life and start dancing with it. You stop demanding from people something only your inner home can offer. Loneliness gives way to communion with the invisible, and life becomes less about achieving and more about remembering. Remembering the light, remembering the peace, remembering yourself. These memories aren't just spiritual comfort, they're guides. When you reconnect with your spiritual home, you start acting with more integrity, more compassion, more purpose. You align with what truly matters. And that reflects in every area of life, in the choices you make, the bonds you cultivate, the way you handle pain. It's as if, by remembering who you are, everything begins to fall back into place. Because deep down, home isn't a destination. It's a state of being. And when you live from that state, even this world becomes home. When you start remembering your spiritual origin, everything in your life starts to gain new meaning. The pains don't vanish, but they stop feeling like punishment. The challenges remain, but now they're seen as opportunities for expansion. Hurry gives way to presence. Self-pressure dissolves into compassion, because you begin to recognize yourself as something far greater than a body struggling to survive. You are a soul exploring the physical experience with purpose, and that remembrance completely changes your relationship with time, with others, with life. Nothing is banal anymore. Everything becomes sacred. That remembrance also restores your personal power. You stop looking outside for what already exists within. You no longer need constant external validation, approval, or control over everything. You understand you're not a victim of chance, but the co-author of your story. Seth says, "You are not a powerless creature, but the creative source of your reality." When that truth lands, fear dissolves. You begin to act with more confidence, speak with more truth, love with more courage. The connection with your spiritual origin gives back what was never lost, your creative essence. Moreover, remembering who you are reconnects you with intuition. The soul speaks all the time, but you only hear it when you get quiet. Remembering your spiritual origin sharpens your sensitivity to signs, synchronicities, omens. You realize nothing is coincidence. Every person, encounter, event carries a message. You become more present, more attentive, more connected to life's invisible flow. And with that, you start making more aligned decisions. You choose with your heart, act with spirit, live with coherence, because now you know you're being guided, not from the outside, but from within. That remembrance also transforms your relationships. You stop demanding that the other fill you and start relating from wholeness. You stop fighting for control and start building with truth. You can forgive more easily, let go more lightly, love with more presence. Because you understand everyone is a soul on a journey just like you, that everyone is remembering or forgetting where they came from. This understanding breeds compassion, and compassion heals. It heals bonds, memories, generations. Spiritual remembrance doesn't isolate you. It brings you closer to the world with more consciousness. Living with awareness of your origin doesn't mean escaping life, but rooting yourself in it with more purpose. You honor the body as a temple, the everyday as an altar, your choices as prayer. You start to see beauty where before there was routine. You start to act with presence where there was anxiety. Remembering your origin doesn't pull you off earth, it anchors you in it with wisdom. Because you understand spirit isn't up there, it's here now, pulsing in every detail. The soul didn't come to flee the world, but to illuminate it. And that illumination begins when you remember who you came to be. Finally, remembering your spiritual origin gives you peace. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, achievements, or applause. It's the peace of knowing you are exactly where you should be, that everything has a reason, that you are returning, not to a place but to yourself. When that peace enters, you breathe differently. You walk differently. You live differently. Because you know you are not lost. You know you are not separate. You know you have never been alone. And then at last you can live this life with a whole heart, with an awakened soul, and with eyes shining with remembrance. You weren't born here. You came with intention, with courage, with light. And today, something inside you began to remember. If this message awakened something within, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who also feels homesick for a place they can't name. Tell me in the comments, what was the moment in your life when you most felt you already knew something, even without ever having lived it? In the next video, we'll reveal how your physical body holds direct messages from your consciousness and how pain is often the soul's clearest language. Until then, remember, you were never lost. You were just in the process of remembering.